100% his wife is a man. And they said, why? It's like, because he looks like a little you can see it. So what more do you want to see? You can see on his face. You could see on Macron's face that he's exactly the kind of person who would be groomed by a man. So it's obvious.
Enjoy the video and subscribe for more.
Well, do you have a study about this hamburger? Do you have some data on the hamburger? Oh, it says that protein's good for you. Give it to me. Dumbass. The guy who got the hamburger is trying to force it down your neck, pull the study out of his.
It's perfect. We're going to jump right into a conversation with I've watched it too many times.
Well, it's kind of funny because you probably have this also. You have a point of view and people say to you, where do you get this point of view? Why can you think that? What source does it come from? I've been around. How can you think anything else? You know, and I'm not one to get in trouble. But I recently watched your show when you were talking about Macron, wife, husband, whichever one it was. The dude, and people were saying to me, Andrew, what do you think about that? And I said, well, yeah, 100% his wife is a man. And they said, why? It's like, because he looks like a little you can see it. So what more do you want to see? You can see on his face. You could see on Macron's face that he's exactly the kind of person who would be groomed by a man. So it's obvious.
And then it's the common sense aspect where they're like, first and foremost, they are producing no evidence to the contrary. 30 years not a single picture of this person exists.
Yep.
We have plenty of pictures of his brother who suddenly went missing at the exact same time that Brigitte was born at the age of 30.
Yep.
And people don't have that common sense to go, wait, that is quite strange. Why are they not able to just easily debunk this? And instead, you're going to call everyone else crazy. And the thing that should terrify people is the fact, which you describe it as the Matrix, I think that actually is the right term, is that the Matrix works overtime to make it seem as though the people who recognize the insanity, recognize the homosexuality, recognize the pedophilia are in fact the people that are crazy. Like it's a complete inversion of what's actually happening.
And the saddest thing is that it works. I mean, where did Macron even come from anyway? I remember that French election. I'm certainly no expert on French politics, but I remember he popped up out of nowhere, some globalist. He was a lawyer or a banker or something. They just put him up there and then he won. The last French election, Marine Le Pen was winning and then, she lost. It's like, are these elections even real anymore? Is anything even real anymore? I mean, I only have criminal cases in 3 countries currently. You may as well add France to the list, you know. But I just don't believe any of it. And then Macron stands up there, and of course, he's complete globalist, WEF. I remember his obsession with Merkel. Do you remember the way he used to stare at her? He used to stare at Merkel with adoring eyes. Very strange situation the French find themselves in. And when you point these things out, you point out that it's strange, right? You point out and say, look, this is unusual. Even if she is a woman, which is highly debatable. The fact that she's 30 years older and it's all just a bit weird. But if you want to mention these things, you're right. You're called a crazy conspiracy theorist because so many people are so desperate to conform. You know, I came to this unfortunate realization recently, especially in light of the Kamala garbage. There's a whole bunch of people who want to be slaves. They literally want to be. You sit and say, why can't you convince people to see the truth? And then you realize it's because they don't want to see the truth. They want to be a slave because it makes them feel the same way a child feels when they get attention from their parents. They want to be good slaves to the system, and they hope that that will prevent them from getting shot. Now, we know our history. It means they'll get shot last, but they'll still get shot.
Right.
So you have to make a decision as a man, especially, like, do I want to die first like a hero for telling the truth, or do I want to die a few years later like a coward? And I guess that's where you see the differentiation in the opinions, the dichotomy of the different types of men who are living in the world today. But it's really crazy that so many people will sit there and consistently consume lies and garbage after they've been lied to so many times, and they feel like they get some kind of, I don't know if it's satisfaction, I don't know if it's warmth, I don't know what they feel in their heart when they just subjugate themselves to these people. Maybe it's like cuckdom, you know? They like to feel like a cuck. They like to feel stupid. There's no other way. There's a whole bunch of people who want to be enslaved to these systems.
I think slavery is natural, actually. I thought about this for a long time because I'm going, how could you accept this? Like somebody telling you to stay at home, not see your family, double mask, let your parents die alone.
Yep.
Everything spiritually should be coming online going, this is not natural, this is wrong, and I'm going to fight this. but they get in line. And even when they know it's wrong, they're still fearful to speak out and say that for fear of persecution. And something that a study that I showed, like a study that was done by the CIA, an experiment rather, to my audience, was where they sat a bunch of people in a room. This is a true CIA experiment. And 17 of them were agents, and one of them was from the public, but he didn't know that he was the only person that wasn't an agent. Yep. And they held up a picture of a triangle, and they went around the room, and they said, "What do you see?" And every agent, went through them first, and they said, "Square, square, 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 square." It was clearly a triangle. Square, 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 square. They get to that last guy, and he says, "Square." Knowing fully that he is seeing a triangle.
Yep.
So what they understand is that peer pressure, like the psychology of peer pressure, is a real thing, but it's stunning to me that grown men succumb to this, or something that's unbelievably wrong about that.
Yeah, completely. And that's why they attack masculinity so heavily, because truthfully, as a man, if you have an opinion which is different to other men, it crosses your mind, you might have to fight. That's just how it goes, right? So if you're a man and you sit in that room and 17 men say it's a square and you know it's a triangle, you're probably looking them up and down going, can I beat them all? Now me, I'm built different. I'll be like, that is a triangle, sir. You're wrong. But you have to have a lot of faith in yourself to be able to do that, right? A lot of people simply don't speak out because it's a scary thing to do, because now you have personal accountability and then you have to defend your opinions also. And there's a lot of people who aren't capable of or are afraid to defend their opinions, so they just think, I'll just go with the flow. And that's the actual mess we're in. I don't think the mess is so much conservatives against liberals or the sane against the insane. It's this ether in between of people who are just like, it doesn't matter, and I'm not interested in politics, and they're just going along with the system, which is probably the largest contingent of the populace, and they're just allowing this clown show to continue for as long as it's continued. And I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist, but ever since 2020, I don't believe any of the elections are fair at all. I don't believe that any of the people in charge have our interests at heart at all. I believe it's a massive racket where everyone is just stealing. I believe if you speak against the system, the Matrix is going to come and they're going to use lawfare to try and destroy you. I said on a podcast I did 7 days before Trump's assassination attempt that there's no way they're going to let him win. Then his assassination attempt happened. Thank God he survived it. That was a miracle in and of itself. That's been memory hold now. That's been disappeared from the internet. Don't know if you saw this morning. All of the references between Bill Clinton and Jeffrey Epstein have been removed from Bill Clinton's Wikipedia page a couple of days ago. So that's gone. Nothing's printed anymore, right? So they just changed the typing. And you try and talk about this with people. There's people who understand you. There's people who disagree with you who are mentally unwell. But unfortunately, there's this huge contingent in the middle who are just like, yeah, I don't really know, and I don't know, and I'm just gonna go do as they say. It'll be fine. And they're so perma-distracted with garbage. And that's, I look at like a festival, for example. I'm not anti-music, but I look at a festival and I see people in the festival and they're all screaming and jumping up and down. I'm like, if you had half as much passion for the freedom of your children that you do for this song you've heard 10,000 times, we'd be in a much different position. But they've managed to placate the entire population, and which is actually a really interesting thing. You have to sit and think, how did they make us all so placid? How has everybody just been eunuched to the point where they're sitting there going, I can't see my parents, I can't leave my house, but it's fine. It's truly incredible. It's actually quite a remarkable thing they've managed to do. And as they turn on the PR machine once again, they've turned on the machine for Kamala. Nobody liked her. Nobody. Not even the liberals liked her. Not even the biggest Joe Biden fans liked her. They were all saying there's no way she could win. And here she is, the most loved person on the planet, like 2 weeks later. It's just incredible to me. They could do COVID all over again, Candace. They could do it again.
I know.
Isn't that scary?
Yeah, it's very scary. And that's why I go back to this like peer pressure thing. I basically now, when I meet people, I want to know who they were in high school. I think it's the most significant time in your life. I want to know who you were in high school, because it's somehow you see that their characteristics, they just reemerge later on in life. And right now what we're fighting is a system of losers, right? Yep. Who are writing their articles feverishly. They hate people that have confidence. They hate people that are self-confident and are not going to, I said that the data says this and I'm smart and I went to Columbia. I don't care if you went to, I literally don't care. You are the dumbest person. I would never follow you, right? You couldn't lead a marching band, right? And somehow you think that writing articles in the Daily Mail, calling me names, case in point, New York Times former writer Barry Weiss. Candace, it's that insane. You are you're like a weird loser, lesbian, can crawl in a hole, literally Barry White, she would crawl in a hole and die. I could care less. And I say that knowing that there's going to be, how could you say, literally she would crawl in a hole and die. You think you have the authority, right, to tell people that I'm bat insane because I won't get in the line in the same way that you've gotten in line with the system your entire life?
Yep.
Like you're a Zionist, bought and paid for Zionist, and
Yep.
your job is to convince Americans that never-ending war, while we can't afford groceries, while people can't afford to put gas into their tank, is something that they should just subject themselves to because there's some higher moral purpose that really just serves you and your superiors.
Whoa, you don't think Israel's your number one ally?
It's the dumbest thing. People just say stuff, and that's how you really know that everyone's a bot. And I say this even against, people who I've had respect for in the past. I really see it because they say stuff that doesn't even make sense. It's like 6 feet social distancing, save lives. Israel's our number one ally and friend. Why would you even make that statement? That's an objectively, on its face, stupid statement to make.
They just repeat it. And you're right, they don't think about it. So let's think about it. For everyone at home, let's think about it. Someone comes up to me, Andrew Tate, Israel is your number one ally. I said, well, they never paid my rent. So they're not my ally. They don't cut my grass. But what do they do for me? Turns out nothing. So who are they allies to? Well, are they allies to the government, who are also, it seems to be, my enemy? Are they allies to the people who I don't trust? When the senators who are robbing everybody and stealing all of the money and inflating the currency stand up and say they're our number one ally, maybe they're your number one ally because you can get an Israeli passport and disappear and hide because you're a pedophile. Maybe they're your ally, but they're certainly not mine. So why is anybody even repeating this trope? Whose ally are they?
Right, I said that. They protect pedophiles. They literally...
They're allied to the criminal class.
So I'm like, where is this coming from? They also performed a terrorist attack and got away with it because of, I'm assuming, the blackmail they have on politicians, but the USS Liberty, we can't even talk about that in America. Yeah. It's like this no-go zone. You can't talk about that, or the press is going to label you an anti-Semite for knowing that they murdered and tried to get away with it by flying in planes, unmarked planes, and bombing the USS Liberty to drag us into their war with Egypt. Yeah. That's not my ally. Not from a political standpoint, not from a personal standpoint. The second your state is protecting pedophiles and allowing them to escape from America after they've molested children, and then you go, oh, we'll keep them safe here. And on top of that, you get to take our tax dollars. We can't even extradite our pedophiles. Yeah. And you, like, why are you saying that?
And isn't an ally reciprocal? Like, shouldn't it go both ways? Like, what do they do for us? I understand we fight their wars for them and we protect them and we give them weapons and we do everything they want. That's fine. They're surrounded by enemies. For some reason, nobody seems to like them. That's fine. What do they do for us? Ever. Anything. Ever. It's really...
No one can tell you.
No one can tell you. And then, of course, people are so emotionally invested in the idea of Israel when you mention these things. They just repeat that trope. Well, they're our number one ally. It's like, I think you need to first understand the word "are," who "are" is, and secondly, understand the word ally, because ally is supposed to go both ways. And this is just one of the many different pegs in the system, which now X is free. I have to admit, I feel like people are starting to realize and wake up a little bit about a lot of subjects. And Rumble is out there, and obviously you've got your own show, which is amazing. But it's one of the cogs in the machine that I hope slowly start to break. And I was actually very optimistic until about 2 weeks ago when this Kamala crap started. And I realized that we're really not as far along as I thought. There's still so many people who will just march step into oblivion. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I would hate to be labeled a misogynist. That would be terrible.
You've never been called that before.
I don't know if I'd ever survive.
Yeah.
But my view on the world is pretty simple. My view on the world is that you can't have loyalty from somebody who's weak. Because weak people, even if they have the best intentions to be loyal to you, they can always be intimidated, or they can always be primarily intimidated. But when it's down to save their own skin, because they're weak and they're afraid, they're the kind of person who will turn on you. I don't trust weak people. I don't have weak people around me. I don't like weak people. And the fact that Kamala can't even string a sentence together means that when she gets to calls from the shadow figures about how the world's really going to work, I just can't see her standing up for the average American. I can't see her saying to whoever calls that phone, who's really in charge of things, who've been running things for the last 4 years because Biden doesn't have a clue what's going on, and they say this needs to happen. I just don't see her saying, that's bad for the American people. I just see her saying, oh, well, you know, what did Trump say? The bus, that's what buses do. That's it. So it doesn't even matter what she says. It doesn't even matter how well-intentioned she is, which is, again, arguable because I don't believe she is. But because she's such a weak person, she's just going to be stood up there as a puppet, and she's going to be played. And it's scary because I truly believe if Trump loses this election, it's over for America. It's over for the Western Hemisphere. It's done.